Hi.
Hi, guys. How are y'all?
I'm Michelle.
And this is Mark.
And this is Mark and Michelle.
It is another episode of. So
tonight we're going to talk from the Medical Medium book, Secrets Behind Chronic and Mystery Illness and How to Finally Heal by Anthony William. We're going to talk out of this, making sense of fads, trends, and myths about the gut. So a lot of us have come from the GAPS diet, including Mark and myself.
Yep.
And we had to get over some of these things that he's talking about right now.
Some of these beliefs.
Yes. Right. So the first one is hydrochloric acid supplements, which we took. I took them for every meal.
If you don't mind, I'm going to add one belief that we all thought about the gut, that the gut got damaged by bacteria and viruses and all that stuff alone. And he says this, Krista, good to see you again today. Sorry.
Oh, hi, Krista.
And he says, Marlo.
Hi, Marlo.
He says that if your gut actually got damaged, you'd be bleeding and leaking everything into the rest of your body cavity. And you know what? That's true. Logically speaking, yeah, that would be the case. He says this, and this makes 100% sense to me now that I know it. When your liver is backed up, your gut's going to get damaged. When your liver is not backed up, everything is going to stay healthy.
Right.
So your gut doesn't get damaged just by bacteria and viruses and that type of stuff alone. It doesn't. Because if your liver wasn't backed up, everything else would be working properly. And so your gut wouldn't be damaged. All right? So that's the belief right out of the way. It isn't bacteria and viruses and everything else. It's a backed up liver. So
okay, so we're going to start with hydrochloric acid supplements, which I took before anything I ever ate when I was doing GAPS.
Yep.
And so he says, these are supplements that claim to provide your stomach's missing hydrochloric acid in pill form. While these are well-intentioned, there are two problems with them. Number one, they aren't helping your stomach create hydrochloric acid on its own. Number two, and more important, the manufacturers of these supplements don't realize that your stomach's hydrochloric acid isn't composed of just one chemical. So that is from his spirit that says our stomach is made up of more than one kind of hydrochloric acid. So these supplements offer only one of the 7 acids that make up your stomach's digestive hydrochloric acid. So it's a very incomplete solution. Even worse, they can hinder your stomach's rebuilding of its digestive fluids by creating a chemical imbalance that overwhelmingly favors just one of the 7 acids in the blend. Can you speak to that, Mark?
One of the 7 acids in the blend?
It can hinder your stomach's rebuilding of its digestive fluids.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Because
this is new information.
Well,
so
he says it's new information, and in about a decade, this stuff will come out in other sources besides this book. So I haven't looked into that science-wise to see what other acids would be there besides hydrochloric acid, although I can probably make some guesses. But I'm not going to.
So he says they are not a good option.
That would be the like the betaine HCL that you get. The digestive enzymes. They're not actually enzymes. They're betaine does come from plants. Papain is a digestive enzyme. There's also a digestive enzyme in pineapple, but enzymes aren't acids. Enzymes are a collection of proteins, and acids are very simple molecules.
Okay, so the next one, he says, these supplements are unlikely to do you any great harm. However, you're tremendously better off drinking a glass of celery juice daily. It's only with celery juice that you'll fully restore your stomach's store of hydrochloric acid and reclaim your gut health. So once again, we're back to celery juice. So the next thing we're going to talk about is sodium bicarbonate and candida. So a lot of people are using baking soda as a treatment. They believe the culprit behind gut problems is candida, based on the long time trend of candida diagnosis. They figure that sodium bicarbonate, which is heavily alkaline, will somehow stop candida, which they believe thrives in an acidic environment. Nearly every link in this chain of reasoning is wrong. The one exception is that, yes, many bugs do like an acidic environment. However, candida is very seldom the cause of gut health issues. When your gut is dysfunctional as a result of heavy metals, you can develop infections from a number of sources, including candida. But candida is merely a side effect and typically not a serious one. Now, how does that feel with our beliefs? In fact, the worst effects that are likely to result from a high level of candida are irritated portions of your intestinal and or colon linings forming calluses, which mildly hinder food absorption. In almost all cases, that's as bad as candida gets. And he has a chapter that's completely devoted to candida. Sodium bicarbonate is ineffective against candida anyway. More broadly, sodium bicarbonate does nothing to help your gut. On the contrary, it's abrasive and will only create an imbalance. If you take a large dose of sodium bicarbonate, any combination of the following is likely to happen. Are you ready? Gastric spasms. A homeostasis crisis for your body. That, he says, your body, which must strain mightily to reestablish balance after so much alkaline is abruptly dumped into it.
If you don't know what homeostasis is, a quick explanation is a balance of acid and base in your blood, in your stomach acid. Well, you don't need a balance of acid and base in your stomach acid, but it's basically a balance of acid and base in your bloodstream. And even more than that, on a larger scale, it has to do with all your organs and functioning at their normal capacity.
The next thing he says can happen, a toxic crisis for your body, because while sodium bicarbonate is perfectly safe in small amounts, past a certain level it becomes an irritant to your stomach and intestinal tract. In some cases, this causes diarrhea, vomiting, severe bloating, and or other discomfort. I know I grew up with my dad who would give me baking soda and water for a stomach ache.
Or antacids. That's mainly what they were composed of.
Yeah. I don't remember it ever really helping. The next thing that can happen, a worsening of bacterial and fungal infections. Because sodium bicarbonate disrupts your gut's good bacteria and so weakens your immune system. And another thing that can happen, a worsening of your digestive issues, because sodium bicarbonate damages your hydrochloric acid and thus contributes to leaky gut syndrome. He doesn't really believe in leaky gut syndrome, but he's using that for people who think that's what that is. It also interferes with the absorption of food in your intestines. So there are many negatives to sodium bicarbonate as a remedy. Okay, we're going to move on to diatomaceous earth. Mark, you want to go for that?
Okay. Diatomaceous earth. Another fad is trying to heal the gut by consuming diatomaceous earth, also called diatomite. This is a soft sedimentary rock that crumbles into fine white powder. Some people believe diatomite has the ability to kill parasites and clear toxins from the gut. However, it doesn't do a single useful thing for your gut. It can actually be quite dangerous for your health if you're sensitive and have a health condition. Diatomite clings tenaciously to the sides of your intestinal tract and colon and severely interferes with your ability to absorb nutrients from your food. On top of that, it damages your hydrochloric acid and kills good bacteria. In some cases, it causes initial vomiting and diarrhea, followed by long-lasting gastric spasms and pain. In other words, it has all the bad effects of sodium bicarbonate, only to an even worse degree. Plus, it can take months to shake loose from your intestinal tract. So don't even think about taking diatomite or consuming food-based diatomaceous earth.
So if you guys want to know what page we're on,
we started
on 249.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing is a gallbladder flush. Now this I've not heard of.
No, I've never heard of this either.
Yet another trend is trying to purge your gallbladder of gallstones and toxins by drinking various odd concoctions, such as a glass of pure olive oil. Oh my goodness, that would be awful.
Well, I've done that.
Have you?
On gaps, yeah. You know, get your fat in you where you can, so I did.
Or olive oil mixed with herbs and or lemon juice, cayenne, or maple syrup.
Ugh.
People believe these oil-based concoctions work because within a day after they drink one, they see what appear to be gallstones in their stool. What they don't realize is that they're seeing the oil they drank. When a large amount of oil is dumped into your body, your digestive system uses mucus to form it into little balls, sometimes in multiple colors. Lovely, you poop a rainbow.
There you go.
Depending on what foods are in different parts of your intestinal tract, that can be easily expelled. This is to protect and overburden the liver. I've run across people who have done gallbladder flushes for years, multiple times each year, and still report hundreds and hundreds of large gallstones. If gallbladder flushes really worked, this would have to mean there were thousands of stones in the gallbladder, a tiny organ that could fit in the palm of your hand. It's not humanly possible for someone to produce or harbor that many gallstones. If you were to flush out a gallstone, it would probably become caught in your gallbladder's duct. You'd then be headed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Gallstones are made up of protein, bile, and cholesterol. You don't have to choke down a pint of olive oil and potentially create a crisis to purge them. The best way to get rid of gallstones is to lower your consumption of dense proteins and eat a diet that emphasizes sodium-rich vegetables and fruits that contain healthy bioacids. By incorporating more spinach, kale, radishes, mustard greens, celery, lemons, oranges, grapefruit, and limes into your meals, and by drinking a glass of lemon water every morning and every evening, you can start the stone dissolving process. One safe and amazingly effective option for dissolving gallbladder stones and restoring the liver is to juice a handful of fresh raw asparagus along with whatever other juice ingredients you like. The best way to prevent new gallstones from forming is to follow the advice in this chapter for creating and maintaining a healthy gut. Now, this one is another GAPS one. Fermented foods.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. On the GAPS, I had no trouble with fermented foods, but she did. And I've heard of other kids being fed fermented foods and probiotics and this kind of stuff. Now, probiotics in the sense of capsules, pills, whatever. And then I'd hear people say, oh, well, they had a rash. They had a breakout. And it couldn't be the fermented foods. Actually, it could, because it's a histamine reaction in this case to the fermented foods.
And you'll see in a minute that he says what he says. Just go ahead and say
So fermented food. Let's go back in time before refrigeration was invented. For millennia, in various parts of the globe, you would take your last crop of the season and, in order to survive another winter, throw the fruits and vegetables into pots. These harvests would then undergo a mysterious process that prevented total decomposition and instead preserved the foods. In Russia, for example, they threw cabbages into vats and let them dissolve until they were practically mush, creating what we know as sauerkraut. Now, it wasn't just the cabbage, it was salt as well. This fermentation was critical. Without it, people would have starved to death. No one had a supermarket to pop into on their way home from work, or a freezer or refrigerator to preserve their food supply. In the present day, fermented foods have taken on a revered status. They're celebrated as a boon to health. That's not quite correct. There's a misconception that because fermented foods helped humans for thousands of years, they have health benefits. Truth is, fermented foods were about survival. A self-preserved food was the difference between life and death by starvation. It's better to view these edibles as an important historical stopgap rather than as a health aid. The so-called probiotics in fermented foods are not life-giving. The the bacteria in them thrive off the decay process. In other words, they thrive off death, not life. When an animal dies in the woods, the bacteria that start to engulf its flesh are in the same category as the bacteria used to preserve fermented foods of all kinds. Here's an interesting bit of information. Most of my anthropology degree was in physical anthropology. So what that is human evolution, human evolutionary biology, how we change biologically over time, and this kind of stuff. Well, my professor in physical anthropology had friends at the Body Farm in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so he took some of his graduate students up there. The Body Farm, in case any of you don't know, is a place at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville where they take donated human bodies and they leave them out in the open to watch them decompose. Now, my professor then, someone had asked him in class, what is it that starts the decomposition process? What it is bacteria and yeasts and viruses and things like that are in your gut that start the decomposition process. So,
wow.
All right.
That was quite a story for a little tiny punchline.
There we go. And too much drama for the joke. Yeah. So it's better, he says here, they're in a different, those types of bacteria in fermented foods are in a different category of bacteria from the beneficial type we covered earlier in this chapter. The elevated microorganisms on living fruits and vegetables thrive on life and are therefore restorative to your gut because we are alive. They have a life force that the bacteria in fermented foods do not. All right, another short story with hopefully a better punchline. Back in 2010, Michelle and I watched a show, and I don't remember the name of it.
The Vanuatu.
Right. And what it was about was some native men from the island of Vanuatu in the Southwest Pacific were hosted in different places in the United States, and I think probably in different places in the world. But anyway, they came to the U.S., and they happened to be in grocery stores, and they happened to see, like frozen food, canned food. Then they would visit people's houses for a meal, and they would see what they ate. And these islanders from Vanuatu said something very interesting. They looked at the food here in the U.S. and they said, that's dead food. Because they ate food right off the trees, right off the bushes, out of the ground. And as he's talking about here, they ate the food, leaving the probiotics on it, the good bacteria on it. They might wash off most of the stuff, but they didn't peel it. They ate the good stuff, the yeast and everything else that was on the outside. That is the reason that grapes or fruit, when it falls off a tree or a bush, once it sits there for a few hours, starts to ferment. It's because the yeast ferment the sugars in the fruits. So anyway,
I just want to also add that we got some peaches from a friend that grew on her tree, and you could see the probiotics on it. What does he call them?
Oh, I don't know.
We're almost there.
Mm-hmm. Stop that.
They were so good.
And yeah, those were some of the best peaches I had, and I grew up in Georgia.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on. So when we think of beneficial bacteria, we often think about yogurt. We've been conditioned to believe that the probiotics in yogurt support your gut health. If you're struggling with a health condition, though, yogurt is not a positive food to consume. Dairy feeds all manner of ills. Plus, if it's pasteurized yogurt, the pasteurization process has killed the probiotics anyway. The beneficial bacteria that do thrive in raw living yogurt cannot withstand hydrochloric acid and therefore die in the stomach, never reaching the intestinal tract. That's interesting because on GAPS diet, you and I...
Yeah, but what if you don't have the right amount of hydrochloric acid? Then it could get through it.
Probably. Well, there are some bacteria that are called acidophiles, and they live in acid. And I bet you those help digest food. So that was from Applied Microbiology. I was the only undergraduate in that class, and everybody else was a graduate student. The vast majority, I didn't know that until halfway through the semester. The vast majority of fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, salami, pepperoni, soy sauce, kombucha tea, and so on, breed bacteria from foods that are no longer alive. Such bacteria are useless for your gut. For most people, these bacteria do no harm. They're simply passed through the digestive tract and quickly expelled by the body as unnecessary. I'm not opposed to consuming them. Some people's bodies respond more harshly, however, perceiving the bacteria as foreign invaders and overreacting in efforts to banish them. This can result in bloating, stomach pain, gas, nausea, and or diarrhea. Even if this occurs, though, it's a temporary situation that ends once the bacteria is flushed out. So, if you like fermented foods, it's fine to keep eating them for the unique flavor. And if fermented foods upset your stomach, or if you just don't like them, don't eat them. They don't provide a lot of health benefits to your gut. And if you think they have major benefits, you're being misled. The hydrochloric acid in our guts is extremely sensitive to the bacteria on fermented foods. So it kills the unproductive bacteria, even if it's harmless. It sees it as the enemy. This is in stark contrast to the life-giving bacteria from freshly picked living foods. The beneficial bacteria on a piece of kale straight from the garden is virtually indestructible by hydrochloric acid. So that's where you should turn your focus if you're looking for the true boon to gut health.
Yeah, the problem is, where do you find stuff that's not been so washed you can't?
Organic.
Organic's not been washed?
Nope. May have been sprayed with water at the store,
Yeah.
but they don't wash it because they don't need to. There's no synthetic fertilizers on it, no pesticides or anything else.
Another reason to eat organic.
Yep.
Of course, if you have your own garden, that's the best.
There you go. Yep.
And the final fad, apple cider vinegar. If you're concerned about a gut health condition of any kind and you're looking for cures, steer clear of the apple cider vinegar myth. Don't get me wrong, apple cider vinegar is by far the most beneficial, healthiest, and safest of all vinegars. It's better for you than clean vinegar, white and red wine vinegars, balsamic vinegar, rice vinegar.
Did he say cleaning vinegar?
He did say cleaning
Okay.
vinegar. And apple cider vinegar is ideal for external use, such as addressing skin rashes, scalp issues, and even wounds. But any vinegar taken internally can act as an irritant to any gut health issue and will ultimately be detrimental. If you can't resist vinegar, use high-quality apple cider vinegar, preferably with mother in it, which means it's unprocessed living vinegar. In I think it's the liver rescue book, he says vinegar pickles your liver just like alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So
don't overuse it.
That is the reason to not have vinegar at all. It's also extremely dehydrating.
Well, it is very acidic. So.
All right. So what we covered today was hydrochloric acid supplements, sodium bicarbonate and candida, diatomaceous earth, gallbladder flush, fermented foods, and apple cider vinegar.
Right.
So we also, we haven't gotten much of a response to our coaching. So we have decided to write another book because you guys seem to be very self-sufficient.
Right.
You just need information.
Mm-hmm.
So we have decided to write a book called Heal Your Autism's Do-It-Yourself Guide. Healing Begins in Your Kitchen.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a long title and I haven't memorized it yet.
Yeah.
So we hope it'll be done in 2 weeks because a lot of the writing is already finished.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to offer you guys.
Yep.
You can still download our book,
Uh-huh.
Buried Alive, at www.healyourautism.com.
Mm-hmm. And be sure to drink your celery juice for your hydrochloric acid intake, and do the heavy metal detox smoothie to help kill strep bacteria, viruses, and clean out their heavy metals. And what was the other thing? And continue to do the lemon water because you have to flush out all that stuff. So we will see you guys tomorrow at the same time, 10:45.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good night.
Bye, guys.